A firmware error led to a major Bitcoin theft, exposing vulnerabilities. 1082.65 BTC was stolen in 41 minutes. The attack drained 1,196 addresses. The value at the time was $70,200,000. This was a massive theft. Coldcard wallets secure Bitcoin assets. Designed for maximum security. Utilizes hardware random number generation. Coldcard is a trusted choice for Bitcoin storage. A vulnerability was discovered in firmware. In March 2021, a firmware integration error occurred. Seed generation was routed incorrectly. A critical error undermined wallet security. Flawed RNG integration led to weak seeds. The random number generator used MicroPython's deterministic fallback. It failed to utilize the hardware RNG. Weak random number generation compromised security. Attackers could reproduce weak seed streams. An attacker constrains device unique identifier and RNG history. They can generate the same weak seed offline. Predictable seeds made theft possible. The causal chain of the vulnerability illustrates how a single flaw led to a series of failures. The code excerpt shows the flaw RNG equals ngo.random. Fallback to deterministic RNG if not hardware RNG available RNG equals Yasmerang fallback. This code illustrates the integration error. Estimated theft amounts vary. $88,600,000 suspected stolen. At least $38 million confirmed lost. The total stolen Bitcoin is still uncertain. Ongoing attacks were reported. Coinkite CEO urged immediate action. Customers were advised to generate new recovery phrases. Immediate action was necessary to protect funds. Emergency response was initiated. Firmware was shipped within 30 hours of the attack. Fixed firmware is now available. Timely response helped mitigate further theft. Still gaps in known vulnerabilities exist. Details on ongoing attacks remain unclear. The exact number of affected wallets is not disclosed. Transparency is needed for full assessment. How it unfolded. In July 2026, the initial wave of theft occurred. On July 30th, an attack draining 1,196 addresses occurred. On July 31st, emergency firmware was shipped by Coinkite. What this teaches us. Which design assumption failed? Could this happen elsewhere? Which secure design principle is violated? How should vendors redesign systems like this? What should security teams monitor from now on? Which design assumption failed? Hardware random number generation, or RNG, is always used for seed generation. A firmware error redirected seed generation to a software pseudorandom number generator, or PRNG. All random number generation is secure by default. An integration error allowed for predictable RNG outputs. Firmware updates ensure security without flaws. A coding mistake introduced a vulnerability in the RNG implementation. Could this happen elsewhere? Cryptographic libraries in software wallets may also rely on flawed RNG implementations for key generation. EOT devices using software-based RNG may have similar design flaws. Which secure design principle was violated? Secure by default. The system did not default to using the hardware RNG, compromising security. Defense in depth. Lack of multiple layers of security allowed for exploitation. How should vendors redesign systems like this? Implement a dual RNG system that defaults to hardware but falls back securely. Conduct rigorous testing of RNG implementations before firmware release. What should security teams monitor from now on? First, RNG output logs from firmware. Look for consistent patterns or predictability in output values. Next, user reports of failed seed generation. A spike in reports could indicate underlying RNG issues. Finally, access logs for firmware update attempts. Unusual access patterns may suggest attempts to exploit vulnerabilities. Each of these elements is critical for maintaining security. Open questions the evidence cannot close. What the story cannot yet answer. Specific details on the ongoing attacks mentioned by Coinkite CEO. Clarification on the exact number of affected wallets. Like, comment, and subscribe for weekly cyber breakdowns. Comment with the system you want analyzed next.